everyone, Will Terrell here. Thank you for checking out this video. Today I'm coloring a sketch of a girl I saw at Walmart. You can see it sped up here a little bit. The blue line sketch is the portion I did while she was standing there, and she was there with a group of friends, it seemed like, and she was holding court, waiting for everybody else to finish up. And I love the attitude, so I tried to capture that in the sketch, and then I brought it home to do the full rendering. So you can see me adding color pencil and now marker in its Prismacolor markers, and later on I'll use pen and whiteout and white colored pencil to make it pop out a little bit more. People ask me a lot what kind of markers I use. These are Prismacolor markers, and but they're actually pretty old. I used to do caricatures with them 10 years ago until I realized that was a really expensive way to do caricatures and a slow way to do it. So these are, I have a big box of them that I bought a long time ago, and I'm still using them now. I don't know if they're necessarily the best markers. Copics are pretty good. I've seen Tombos that were actually decent. I want to emphasize that the type of marker that you use it really has to do with what you do with it and how you use it, and because I can do stuff with markers now that I couldn't do 10 years ago, and I'm sure there's a lot better artists out there than me that could do even better with them. I really appreciate everybody watching these videos and all the comments and emails and feedback I've gotten from people. It's actually a little overwhelming. I didn't expect people to enjoy it as much as they have and get as much out of it as they do. So I just want to thank you all for checking it out. I get worried that they'll get boring after a while, so I want to keep it interesting by talking about not just the process in doing these sketches and stuff, because the process, I don't know, the best way to learn is to do it over and over and make your own mistakes. And I can talk about how I do stuff till my face turns blue, and it won't help you as much as actually doing the work and learning the mistakes on your own. Because eventually, like, I've taken lots of classes and workshops, and I've drawn with other artists. Anything I can do to learn how to do this better. And sometimes I'll hear something from 10 different artists, and it makes sense on a logical level, but I don't get it. Like, I don't apply it to my work until I sit down and I sketch and I do hundreds of terrible drawings, and then suddenly I learn the thing that they've been talking about all this time, and I'm like, oh, I get it now. And so I'll talk a little bit about my process in each of these videos, but there's no right way to do this. There's lots of ways to get the wrong result that you don't want, but there's no really right way to do anything with art, especially if you're doing it to have fun. I've always believed that teaching, a teacher's job is only to demonstrate that something is possible, and it's up to the student to make it possible for themselves. And I've found when I've learned the best from a teacher, that was the way that it came about, is they demonstrate something and I try and do it on my own, and I make mistakes. And I've found no matter how hard I try, if a student doesn't put in the work to learn something, there's nothing you can do to teach them. So it's basically a waste of both of our time. So if you have an intention to get better as an artist, keep that in mind. If you ever do run across somebody, a mentor or a teacher, or you're taking a class somewhere, that it's not your teacher's job to do it for you. It's only their job to demonstrate things. And even better, you can learn from everybody. Like, I think that's something, when I finally realized that in my own career, that I had the potential to learn from every person that I meet, no matter what skill level that they're at, suddenly everything changed for me. It stopped being about my own ego and thinking, well, I can learn from this person because they're better than me. You know, it does something to you in a bad way. You can definitely learn from people that know more than you, that have more experience from you. That's obvious, but it doesn't necessarily make you a good student. Like, the best way to be a good student is to always be learning and never think that you have all the answers and that you know everything that you need to know. And something even more powerful that with that is that when you decide that you can learn from every person that you meet, even somebody that can only draw stick figures, there's something in their life that they're a master at that you can never be that good at. It may not be drawing people, but it may be something else, or it may be something that they have better insight for. But if you've got your mind closed to it, you're robbing yourself of of that blessing. And what's strange is I've noticed in my own experiences that some of the most talented people in the world are the most humble about it. Like, they are decades ahead of me as far as their skill level and their experience, and yet they have this attitude of humility where they know and they recognize that there's something in me that they can learn from. And from, I mean, over and over, I mean, people at the top of their industry, I've found that that's how they are, and that's probably how they got to be where they are, because they're constantly learning. They haven't settled into one perfect style and, marketed that. No, they're constantly learning, and they're looking for opportunities to learn in every person that they meet. And what that does on the other side of the spectrum, if you approach somebody that isn't quite at that skill level or has a long way to go, and you approach them with the attitude that there's something that you can learn from them, it changes their attitude about you, and it changes their attitude about their own lives, that they have a potential that you recognize in them, and suddenly they become your ally instead of somebody you think you're better than that. And that goes a long way, I think, in your career and in just in life in general. Like, it just makes you a better person. It makes you more likable, and it makes you're not always having to fluff yourself up and think that you're better than anybody else, or show that you're better than anybody else, because you're not. There's always going to be 1,000 people, thousands and thousands of people that are better than you, and there's always going to be people that are worse than you. And doesn't matter how good you get, you're always going to be somewhere in that spectrum. And to be completely honest, I can still relate to it, and I'm not saying I don't ever get that way. Sometimes I do catch myself doing that, and it really drives me crazy. But I mean, there was a time in my career, in my life, where I was not that great, but I thought that I was, and part of that came from I worked so hard to get to where I was, and I thought I had done everything right, that you're supposed to do, and I thought I was entitled to respect. I was entitled to, some sort of appreciation or some sort of thing that you're just not going to get, if you don't deserve it. And it kind of gives you a stink of desperation. You're walking around with this attitude that nobody wants anything to do with you. And at some point, it all got to be too much for me. It got to be too heavy, and I just gave up on drawing completely. And this is probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And there was a lot of other stuff going on in my life, and a lot of it had to do with just my enormous ego and my need to be appreciated, or whatever I thought it was. And that sucks. You don't enjoy life anymore. You're so caught up in needing to be respected or needing something that you're never going to get. Because as soon as you have that attitude, you're suddenly a prisoner to everybody else's opinion. And at that point, you can show your drawing you just finished to anybody, and they criticize it, and suddenly your whole world comes crashing down. And you either need more ego to prop yourself back up, or you get depressed over it. That's a terrible way to live. And I went through that for a couple of years, and it was not fun at all. And that's ego. And it was hard for me to get out of that until one day I was just really at the bottom of the barrel, and I was like praying, meditating to try and figure out what I needed to do to enjoy drawing again. And I decided that I needed to start doing caricatures for the local children's hospital. And I don't know what put the idea in my head, But I started doing it, and I did it for about 4 months, and I loved making kids smile. I thought that was great, and I was getting a lot out of it. It was an easy way to get that that respect and appreciation I had so long craved. And then one day they brought me into the cancer ward and had me draw a character of a kid who was he was dying. He didn't have long to live, and they didn't tell me this when I walked in the room. Not at all. It was only afterwards, after the fact. And I came in, and the mom asked me. She said that he really wanted to be drawn as Spider-Man, like that was his favorite character. But it was a surprise. Like I was there drawing him in person, but he didn't know I was going to draw him as Spider-Man. And she asked me if I could draw him with his hair, and she described what his hair looked like. And I did it, and it was easy. It was like 5 minutes, and whipped it out and handed it to her and handed it to him, and he was grinning ear to ear, and he was laughing and smiling, and I thought I did a good job. So I walked out, and it was kind of emotional, I guess. And then his mom came running out the door after me, and she was bawling, and she said that she hadn't seen him smile in 3 months. And it hit me hard because it made me realize that I had this gift all this time, and I'd been squandering it just for my own ego. And when I had actually been given this gift, this talent to make the world a better place and to bring joy to others, like this little kid that, there's not that many people in the world that can draw a cartoon in just 5 minutes. Draw a kid as Spider-Man in just a few minutes and make this kid's day. Everybody has unique gifts, and your unique gift is different from so many other people. And if you're using it just for your own purposes, then you're not using it to its fullest potential. So that day kind of turned it around for me. I realized that it was like I was given this sports car to drive around, and I was proud of it. I was able to drive all over the place, and people were all impressed. They're like, "Oh, look at this great that's a great car you got there. That's pretty nice." And I could show it off, and I could take it anywhere I wanted, do anything I wanted with it, but it didn't belong to me. It was a gift that I needed to use to share with other people, and not just for myself. So that was what turned it around for me. I don't know how I got onto this, but well, on that note, this is pretty much the end of the video. I appreciate you checking it out. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope it wasn't too much of a downer. We all go through a lot of journey. I don't know where you're at in your own career as an artist or whatever it is that you're doing, but you're gonna go through a lot of stuff, and you're gonna have to learn a lot of stuff, and you're gonna have to let a lot of stuff go, and that's just part of the process. I appreciate you checking out this video and for sharing it and subscribing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.